I didn't even know what this building was called. I mean, I saw it get built.
Right.
I didn't know what it was.
Actually, we're not going to start recording.
Not a lot.
There are some that are not a significant amount.
It's like there's Alvaro's and Mexican restaurants where you can drive through.
Oh, that kind of stuff, yeah. There's a lot of really good places to eat.
Cold hard truth.
Oh my God, I forgot yours.
I had to go through it for 4 years, so.
Which one?
Angelica's. Street tacos is Mexican food, yeah. Got the little street tacos.
Just trying to save you some money.
Fries and tortilla.
Okay.
And they try to pork.
So the flight plan's now on the Google Drive if you guys want to follow along on your computers. But the important thing is take notes on your paper copy of the flight plan. And we're just going to walk through this. So the first thing we're going to go over is we're going to go over this route briefing. Now, like I said last class, every flight plan that we ever do, we're going to hand you out a route briefing. Okay. The first thing you see here is the city pair that we're doing, your destination or your departure airport and your destination. Okay. Then you have your passenger load, the aircraft, your estimated time of departure, and then you get to figure out your ETA. Okay. So the first part will always be your departure airport. Seattle, as you can see here. You start out with the METAR, then you have a TAF. We have our D NODMs. What are the D NODMs again? Notice Airman. And the D is the local. There we go. Okay, so.
Where are you at in here in the Google Drive?
Oh, okay. Week 7, day 1.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Hey, there's Greg. How you doing, Greg?
Hi.
All right, we're just getting started with the flight planning stuff. So anyways, if you want to hook up to Wi-Fi, if you brought anything for that, there's the password. We just barely opened up the briefing here, so we just kind of did like an introduction. We'll do you right before the next break, okay?
I'm okay. I'll survive.
And then, this route briefing's week 7, day 1 of your on your Google Drive. So let me get you.
This is going to be an interesting part. Figuring out the ETA.
I don't see, I can't even find it.
It's under lesson plans.
Sorry,
Okay. Did it come up on yours? Okay. I might have to. Oh, there it is.
Are we going to be editing these on our computer?
No, I want you will be editing them on the paper copies. Just kind of the reason why we're going to do them on paper copies is for every student, we have to have 5 flight plans, completed flight plans. And so we're going to start out really basic, give you guys like the most gravy train route that we can give you, keep it simple. And then we're just going to start adding stuff on that compound the problems here. So, and then we'll work through them. So, like I said, each route briefing starts with your city pair, your passenger load, the aircraft, your estimated time of departure, and then you get to figure out the ETA. The briefing starts with your departure city, so Seattle in this case. You have first the local weather is your METARs, your last 3 METARs. METARs are published hourly, right? So then we have our TAFs, okay? So our latest TAF, our D NODMs, once again, are our local NODMs. And Who remembers what what information the NoDom's giving us?
It's giving us information on if there's a runway closure or if there's construction going on somewhere. It's just giving you information about the runway.
Perfect.
About the airport.
About the airport in general. So DNODMs are for the airport in general. Anything that's happening on the surface of the airport. So as you can see here, we've got navigation equipment. A NoDom for navigation equipment. We've got an airport runway status light system is out of service. We've got more navigation NoDMs for the ILS, different ILSs for the different runways. The airspace, you see obstructions in there. We'll come back to that. So here you have your FDC NoDMs. Now the FDC NoDMs are your NoDMs for basically routes, whether it be the instrument approach plate, the SID, or the STAR. Anything that changes the minimums or alters the published route in any way. Those are your FDC NoDMs, okay? So we have the FDC NoDMs for Seattle. And then after that, we go into San Francisco, which is our destination airport. And it's identical, right? You got your METARs for the last 3 hours, your TAF, your DNODMs, your FDC NoDMs, and then at the very end, we have the winds aloft for the route. Okay. Now, the winds aloft is measured at various points along our route. So, as you can see here, I kind of make it easy on you guys. I narrow it down to a list of VORs that are going to be in the vicinity of the route that you're planning. So these are the VORs, the stations that are reporting the winds aloft. So you've got Seattle, Portland, Redmond, and I can't remember this one, Rebel. I can't remember
I
this.
was going to say Red Bull.
Yeah. And then San Francisco. So basically from Seattle all the way down into San Francisco, just kind of sporadically through that route. Okay.
Bluff?
Huh? Red Bluff.
Red Bluff.
There you go. There you go. So, if you remember, this is our altitudes across the top. And then under each one of the altitudes, it's kind of like a Excel spreadsheet format. Under 3,000 feet, this is the winds and temperatures, 6,000 winds and temperatures, so on. So that's what they look like. Something else that you'll see across the top here is if we have MELs, you'll see the MEL number, the published MEL number will provide you the MEL charts for those MELs, and then you have to apply the MEL to the flight plan. The other thing is if we give you, we'll also give you alternate options as well. So right now for this flight plan, like I said, I wanted to keep this one super simple, just to give you guys a taste for it. And then tomorrow we'll start the progression into the more difficult, or adding things to our knowledge base here. So that's the route briefing. So if you guys remember SkyVector is going to be your friend. We're going to do a new one here. So we'll just do a quick run through, just a refresher on SkyVector. We have different charts here. So we have our world high chart. That's our high in route chart. So that's your higher altitude routes. We call them jet routes and Q routes. are going to be your high routes. So that can all be found on here. Your world high. Your world low is going to be your Victor routes and your T routes. And do you guys remember the difference between the high and the low as far as like
Sorry.
oh, you're fine. I don't know how to fix that. The
Is it jet route and Victor routes?
yeah, so the jet routes are going to cover a greater distance, right? You're using your high VORs, and your Victor routes are using your low VORs, and so they're going to be a lot closer together. Cover less distance, but yeah, it's kind of like the difference between a freeway and side streets.
Instead of lower VORs.
So low VOR. So who remembers our service volumes of a high VOR?
It goes like 25, and that's the lowest, right?
So 25 is our what? Terminal. Okay. Keep going.
Is it 125?
Close. Okay. Anybody remember?
130.
So 130 for the high, and then our lows are 40 nautical miles. So 130, 40, and 25. Remember, that's something that you guys have to have down pat. So that's your high chart and your low chart. So high VOR, so your 130 nautical mile VORs, your low VORs, and then our VFR charts, you will probably not use in this class, but there they are.
So there's 130, 40, and 25?
130, 40, and 25, yeah. So that being said, if we can get to the high chart, which a lot of times if you have a sitter star, which your bigger airports do, they'll put you onto a jet route, and that's ideal. As we get into the smaller airports like St. George, Cedar City, those airports, typically we're only going to be able to navigate to on a low chart. And sometimes they'll have sitter stars. It'll be like one or two, and other times there won't be, and we'll talk about that when we get to that point. So trying to think of anything else that we need to cover really fast on SkyVector. Just remember that this flight plan tool is going to help you quite a bit. We can just like, for instance, right now, our city pair is Seattle to San Francisco. So if we type in our departure airport K Seattle, which is KC, which is the identifier for Seattle, and then in the destination KSFO, which is the identifier for San Francisco, it's going to pull up a direct route between the two airports. As you can see here, it also gives you a heading and a distance in that purple bar. So that's your total distance, your heading, your average heading between the two, the direct route heading.
What else you have to enter for that?
So we just, so here's the departure.
Yeah.
We've
I've
got,
been there,
we do
so-
our C and then in destination SFO and then just hit enter.
Garrett, what are the two airports again that you have in there?
Seattle Tacoma, and then SFO is San Francisco. So, This box down here, this is where we're going to enter our flight plan, basically. We start with our SID, our departure route. Then we'd go through any of our jet routes, VORs that we use as waypoints, and then we finish with our star, and then it'll draw that out for us. Another thing that we can do here, which is kind of nice, is if you hover over Seattle, let's just say Seattle, it's going to be the same with any airport you use. It will pull up all of your airport diagrams, instrument approach plates, your departure procedures, and your terminal arrival procedures. So if you know which ones you're doing, which charts you're using, this is kind of like your quick way of accessing those charts. The airport diagram, as we all know, is so in aviation, the chart book for the airport is the AFD, Airport Facility Directory, right? And in that, you find general information about your airport. If you guys remember, we went over these. This chart shows us our runways. Everything's always pointed north, remember? So north, you can see in this corner here, this little compass here shows us north, and then it also shows us our magnetic variation. These are our runways. This is our terminal. And then it gives us elevations for each end of the runway, gives us our true heading for that runway. It also gives us all of our frequencies up in the corner. And that's the gist of it, right? We went really in depth with this. What was it, last week or not last week, the week before last. That gives you an idea of the airport layout. Here are our instrument approach plates for each one of our runways.
So these are the only ones that aren't going to be jettisoned?
Yeah, these are our NACO charts. We want you to use the Jeppesen charts, but you can pull information off the NACO if you're using SkyVector and you just want a quick reference. Once again, they'll supply the exact same information. The layout's different. So that's the big difference between the two. Remember, ILS and localizer approaches are our best, give us our best minimums. And then,
Which one? Sorry.
so the ILS or localizer approaches that you see there.
Oh.
And then Cat 2, we're not going to do any of these Cat 2 or Cat 1s, so don't worry about them. We're not going to do visual approaches either. And we're not going to do RNAV. So with Seattle here, pretty much all you have is ILS, which is really, really nice. The departure procedures, once again, no RNAV charts for any of your flight planning. I want to show you the difference look-wise. If you get on a chart and you see these symbols, these stars, those are GPS waypoints. Those won't be on your normal charts. So if you get into a chart and you're trying to find a departure procedure or an arrival, and you see those stars, know you're in the wrong chart. That's your big indicator there. When we see a non-RNAV chart, you'll see, vortex or VOR symbols, as you see there. Remember, these are NACO charts. But your bold lines are where the bold line ends, basically. That VOR is your transition point. these VORs on the outside are used as reference. And this is, as you can see here, it kind of ends right there. That's a transition. So, and it also kind of gives you a general idea that it departs out to the south, and then you kind of go out towards the coast. Your arrival charts look very similar. Once again, if you see these VORs and vortex, those are you're on the right chart. As long as you're not seeing any NRS or GPS waypoints. These lines right here, that's the localizer. That's just showing you the path of the localizer. Once again, the bold line, that's your route. The less defined lines, I don't know how to say that. Those are just reference to identify your waypoints. So, and then once again, all your communication information, your nav information is in those boxes. But we don't need to worry too much about that on these NACO charts because they don't have the same information as a Jeppesen chart. Once again, those are just quick reference. Use the Jeppesen charts to get your actual data for those.
And so we pick obviously we pick a sit and a star if there's one available.
Mhm.
My only question is, and I know we'll probably go over it, is what direction, like obviously we're gonna fly south there. So
Right.
we need to sit in a star that's going south.
Yeah, you don't want to depart because you have, if you, once you select a sit or a star and you file that on your IFR flight plan, basically ATC is going to hold you to that. They may reject your flight plan and say, that doesn't make sense, So
Happen very often.
it does happen. Today I did a green needles route is what we call it, where I actually, because the FMS is deferred on the aircraft, we actually have to go through and make sure we're using ground-based nav aids for the aircraft, and they can't fly a GPS route, basically. So today I did one, went direct to a VOR, and we were looking at it and we're like, it's kind of a toss-up, a 50-50. We felt pretty good about the route we had, planned, but it was like a 50-50. ATC might reject this because we went direct to a VOR. It was out of Detroit. For some reason, Detroit thinks that nothing is north of them, so they don't really do a sit or a star going north. So, anyways.
And they rejected it? ATC rejected it?
No, they ended up, they accepted it, and as soon as the plane got in the air, the pilots went direct to the airport anyways. They were flying up to, trying to remember. If I see it, I'll know. They're flying right there, Alpena. So they went from Detroit to Alpena. The way I filed them kind of followed up this way and then broke back in. But as soon as they got off the ground, they went direct. ATC was like, yeah, go direct. So it's just legality reasons why we do that. So, anyways, another story, another day.
So for Seattle to San Francisco, so it's a south departure. So, I mean, a lot of airports to choose from. So are we always going to try and select the Cat 2s for this class? So
No,
Just emergency.
we're going to use Category 3 landings only. So your best, once again, that we're going to allow for landing minimums are going to be your 200.5 or the RVR that's listed in your chart. Now, when I say 200.5, you got to make sure that your chart has 200.5, right? So that's the lowest we can go. So anyways, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. Trying to think of anything else. Just kind of a quick SkyVector tutorial continuation here. You can grab these purple lines and say you're flight planning. Say our star ends up taking us to this point, to Red Bluff here. Oops, my bad. Okay, so you can grab the line here. You can put it onto the VOR wherever you're trying to. Let go, and then plan. You hover over that button where it says plan. If you click that, it locks in that waypoint. You see that? Basically, I can plan to my VORs. I can just kind of drag and drop onto my VORs. Or airports or whatever you're using. Well, you're not going to use airports, but drag and drop onto your VORs to plan your routes, which is kind of nice. Yeah, you can hover over different things. You can click on them. You can see the VOR. You can see the intersections that are listed there. GPS, this gives us our latitude and longitude. Portland Airport. You can click on this Portland Airport. It'll pull you into the information for Portland. You can see your AFD information here as well. It gives us a nice diagram of the airport, and then gives us information for each one of the runways. Excuse me. Airport remarks. These military marks are dependent upon it being an actual military use airport. Gives you the phone number for the airport manager, the weather services on the airport, and then all the communication frequencies for the airport. This also kind of gives you the same information in the center here. It'll give you a lot of that same information. If you keep scrolling down here, you get to the charts here. These are your weather minimums. So these are, do you guys remember the names of these charts? So alternate minimums. You got like your 10-9 chart as well. These are the NACO equivalents. I hate NACO.
Is it basically since at that specific airport on the alternate airport minimums, all these airports are the only ones you can pick?
No, we'll worry about that later. And like I said, these NACO charts are garbage.
Would you do that Portland page? Would you click on just to see?
Yeah, just click on the airport, and then if you actually click on the hyperlink for the airport, it'll take you into the information for that airport. It has your star charts in PDF form here, your instrument approach plates, and then your departure procedures. Any questions? We're cruising. I'm trying to get through this really fast because we're going to get to the meat and potatoes, and we're going to use all this and actually figure it out. So, say your flight plan box disappears, just click flight plan and it pulls it right back up. So flight plan up here in this top left corner. Any questions so far? Okay.
So we always put 400 in speed, right? That's our reference speed.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but yeah, 400s are what we're going to use as a reference speed. The IFR flight packet. Okay, so starting with the first page, and this is the paper charts that I gave, or the paper stuff that I gave you. The first one is going to be your dispatch release paper. So this is where we write all of our data. Once we've compiled all of our data and have our absolute figures, this is where we're going to put all of that information in, because this is the dispatch release is kind of the official, like, this is what we're going to do, right? It's not a simplified, it's not estimated, it's accurate and absolute. That's what we're shooting for, right? So this is kind of the last page that we fill in, but it is the first page of your packet because it's the most important part of your package. This next page is a map of the United States, and it has all of your major VORs. I believe these are all the weather reporting VORs across the country. Now, when we get into convective sigmets, who remembers what the convective sigmets are? So it's going to be, it's not only bad weather, but it's your convective activity, so your lifting action, right? So we're talking thunderstorms, we're talking, thunderstorms. That's pretty much it. But you're looking at like tornadoes and stuff like that. All of that's going to be in here. Now tornadoes are a little bit different, but anyways, your convective activity. So just remember that means lifting action. And when we give you the convective sigmets, this paper's here for you to draw and visualize, because it'll be like you're 40 miles north of the, TCH VOR, and then your next point is at JAC VOR, and then your next point is at, RKS, and you have to draw the box so that you know where that convective sigmet lies, and then plan your flight around it. We'll give you charts, but this is good information as well. This is our IFR flight plan. This is where we're going to get our actuals. So we're going to do an estimated first. We're going to kind of run through all the steps doing an estimation, and it's going to be really fast because with an estimated flight plan, we're just trying to get information to make a go-no, is this legal flight, as quickly as we can. After we know that it's legal, then we're actually going to do the math and do a simplified. And then once we do a simplified, this is where all of it becomes actuals. And this is where we do all of our math and figure out, our total distance, our total time, total burn, and our actual aircraft weight at the end of the day. The performance worksheet, this is where we'll list out like our airport, what runways we're going to use. It also gives us a place to, put our burn, our takeoff speeds, V1, VR, V2, our stab trim setting, and just general airport information. This next one is your runway, your requirements chart. So this is where we're going to put the actual requirements that we pull off the plates for our runways. whether that be, dependent on your runway. We're going to put all of that information on here. The next chart is our weight and balance chart. You guys know very well what this is.
I'd say these are my favorite ones. So.
And then this is your aircraft, your PIN card, and then your passenger index table. That kind of completes the flight plan, your dispatch release. Okay, so with all that information we've got, we're gonna use all of that to build and build and build and build until we get an actual flight plan. These papers are just there to kind of help us navigate our way through that entire mess. So, that being said, the first thing that we have to do whenever we get a route plan or a route briefing for a city pair is we've got to make a go-no go decision as quickly as possible. Why waste our time figuring out numbers if we aren't even legal to dispatch the flight? Not only that, but on our practical, you have about 20 to 30 minutes to make a go-no or a go-no-go decision. That means you have to apply the MELs. You've got to check your weather, make sure you're legal on your weather, and then you've got to, have a good idea that your route is even flyable. And so really your go-no-go, by the end of it, you're going to be able to make that decision probably within 10. The inspector, if you're taking 20 to 30 minutes, he's probably going to come over and be like, what are you doing? You're not legal to dispatch this flight. Why? Where are you at? What are you doing right now? Because he's not going to waste your time. He's not going to waste his time if you can't even catch the legal part of it. So it may sound like a lot, but I promise you, you'll be very good at making that decision quickly. So the first thing that we do whenever we get one of these flight plans is we do a quick scan over it, figure out what our weather is, what our MELs are, apply our MELs. This one doesn't have an MEL, so we're just going to start with our weather. We have an estimated time of departure of 0230 Zulu. Okay. So with that information, we've got to do an estimated ETA. Okay. To get our estimated ETA, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go into your SkyVector and I want you to type in the city pair. So KSEA and KSFO. Some of you probably already have it.
Sorry, what was that again?
So KSEA
Okay.
and then KSFO. Yep. That, once again, that purple line, oops, if I can, will give us our general heading and our nautical miles. Now, to estimate it, remember that you're not going to fly direct. Your route may bend and twist and, maybe your star takes you clear out here and maybe your SID takes you way over here before you start your route. So you can see that will adjust your distance. That's pretty easy to see. So what I do, because I don't want to go into a lot of depth, the first thing I do is I get my overall distance as quickly as I can and just get an ETA. We do 400 knots, right? And I'll pad it. I'll basically take it and say 10% on top of my overall here. So 590 nautical miles. I'll add 59 miles to that for our bends, for for the bends, the different directions that we're going to do, you know. We're just going to pad that number a little bit and just get a rough estimate. So 590 nautical miles. Just do the quick math in your head. Add the 59 on there at 60. That gives us what, 640 nautical miles, right? Or 650, sorry. 650 nautical miles. And then we've got to divide 650 nautical miles by 400 knots, right? So who wants to do that?
About 1.5.
Yeah, about an hour and a half.
The wind times it, or the other way I do it is I divide that and I times it by an hour, and I get like 97.5 minutes. I just subtract 60 every time.
So if you do 650 divided by 400, that gives us 1.62 hours. 1.62 hours gives us a hair over an hour and a half. We don't have to get super detailed on that time. We want to know, let's just call it an hour and 40 minutes. Is everybody good with that? So an hour and 40 minutes, and we're going to take a look at our weather with an hour and 40 minutes. So let's just say that we'll add on our hour and 40 minutes here. So 140, right, to our 230. That gives us what? Sorry, that's not our ETA. That's our estimated time en route. But so an hour and 40 plus 230 Zulu, that gives us what? 410. Oh, 410 Zulu. Okay, so pretty rough estimate, but now we can make a decision on our weather, right? Okay, so where do we go? Where do we go from here?
To the tab.
Yeah.
Are
Okay,
you recording this? I just need to ask just in case.
I am recording.
Thank you.
I pushed the button. I just wanted to double check myself because I am horrible at that. As Jordan probably knows full well. Wait a minute, there's a 30-minute gap I
I can
missed.
certainly use that as my excuse for anything if I can't remember something. No,
Oh, you didn't record it.
I've been recorded. May I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I put in SkyVector, just Seattle to SFO, and I even picked up a couple star routes or VORs or whatever, and I get an estimated time en route of 2 hours and 23 minutes.
Okay.
Basically direct. Why is it higher than what we just figured?
Well, did you put a speed in here?
I just put 400 in there. I don't know if I need to enter it.
Wow. Yeah.
I got it.
So what SkyVector does is it's going to take your winds aloft as well. It's going to take an altitude. SkyVector's, you can literally file an IFR flight plan off of SkyVector. It's really accurate. So it's going to be different.
Okay.
Just depending on, yeah. So, actually, you know what? I'm thinking about this now. I did that wrong. So it's not 650 divided by 400 because that doesn't give you time. See, you get rusty if you don't do this like every single day. I figured out where my flaw was and why it's so big of a difference. Okay, so let's take our 400 nautical miles an hour. We've got to figure out how many nautical miles we're covering. So if we divide this by 60, right? So if we take our 650 and divide that by 6.6, that gives us our time, 98 minutes. So that's not big of a difference.
It's a fast flight. Still, yeah.
Still pretty close. So either way, huh? Maybe. I don't know. It's an estimate. That's all I have to say. That is, you can do it either way there, right? Either way is going to make sense because 400 nautical miles in an hour. So that is your miles per minute. Sorry.
Just do the 400.
Yeah, 400 divided by 650 divided by 400 gives us a rough estimate on our time.
I'm gonna try to do it like yours, just so I don't get screwed up like that. If you divide it and times it together, you still get the same results. You just minus.
Whatever you do to come up with an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay. Well, if it comes up to the same, then do it your way, I guess, huh?
As long as we're staying on the same page here. So as long as you're coming up with the same numbers I am, I'm not gonna, it's like that core math or whatever that they do now in school.
Oh my
Yeah, I try to teach my kids math and they're like, what in the world are you trying to teach me? This is foreign. And then they try to teach me, and I'm like,
do math that way.
yeah.
Did you see that new show coming up, the kids show? He's trying to teach his kid math. He said, they didn't used to teach math this way.
It's
Oh, the
great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's how I feel with my kids for sure.
Math?
So either way, we came up with the same conclusion. So whatever you want to do. Okay.
Why did you choose 60 as the padding again?
60 minutes.
60 minutes.
Oh, just
No,
60,
so
60,
10%. So
10%. Okay.
10% of your distance for your twist and turn. Let's keep it nice and simple. Even if we did like 20%, you'd still probably be in the same TAF line. And you'd have a pretty good estimate. But 10% for a short distance sounds pretty good. So with our number there, about an hour and 40 minutes, we came up with our ETA. We're going to fall on that 400 line, right? Somewhere between 04 and 05 Zulu. So we can make a pretty good go, no go decision on a TAF using that, right? So to make a go, no go decision as far as the TAF goes, so legal to go, and we're looking at our destination. What are we using to make that decision, that legal to go decision? Visibility. Okay. So visibility at what time? At our ETA. Not an hour before, hour after. We're not applying the 1, 2, 3 rule. It's at our ETA. So 0400 line. Or 0400, what line are we going to be looking at to determine legal to go? Second line. Okay.
I feel like I'm on a different section.
Yeah.
You probably are on Seattle. You got to scroll down to San Francisco.
Oh, we're on time of arrival.
Right, because we're looking at our destination
Okay.
airport for our legal to go. So, looking at the San Francisco TAF, like we said, it's going to be our second line. And our second line, we're looking at visibility only. There are very few times that you will look at both the visibility and ceiling for legal to go. So, that being said, are we legal to go? Yes. Okay. So as far as weather is concerned, we're legal to go. Look at the line before and look at the line after. Do those even come close to our legal to go? Okay. So that being said, say that instead of a greater than 6 miles, it said 1 mile. What would you do? Yeah. So we want to look at our chart for San Francisco. We come in here. We could pull up, again, using our Jeppesen charts, not the NACO charts. We'd come in. In fact, why don't I do that just to form good habits right off the start. So
if you also click airports on the top, you can just type in the airport.
Yeah, we don't want NACO charts though.
Oh, okay.
So come into your flight planning in your Google Drive, Jeppesen charts, go to San Francisco, and then we come down to what gives us our best minimums again? ILS. So we come down to our ILS approach plate, whatever one it is, and we go ILS localizer, runway 19 left. Now there's 300 and 1. Let's see, can we get better? 200.5 here on our ILS runway 28 left. We've got another one that's a 200.5. We've got another one that's, so we're good. At 1 mile, we'd still be legal to go. Now, if it were at a 1/4 mile, we wouldn't be legal to go. And we could just say, done.
Which
Right.
one?
Just our approach plates for San Francisco.
Which one is that though? ILS one. 28 left.
Any one of them. We're looking for our landing minimums, right? So where are landing minimums going to be found on this chart? Right here. So 200, that's our ceiling. Our visibility is the far left box and a half. Okay, that being said, I've taken it easy on you guys and we've left it at that, right? Okay. Let's make sure that our runway is even open and that there's no navigation that's NODAM'd out. So if you look down here, San Francisco in our D NODAMs, we're going to apply these NODAMs, okay? Our ETA was what again?
410.
So 410 Zulu, let's call it 400 Zulu. So 0400 Zulu does, if we look at our first NODAM here, what do we see?
700 to 1300 Zulu.
Yeah, the runway, this runway, 1 left, 19 right, is closed daily from 0700 to 1300. Do we fall outside that time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so what I want you guys to remember here is when we do a NODAM scan, I look down this column, okay? You can see obstruction, obstruction, taxiway, obstruction, 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 taxiway, obstruction, runway. I stop and I look, what is going on with the runway? Nav, I stop, I look at what's going on with my navigation. Runway, runway. Every time I see something that directly affects us or our minimums, whether that be the runway, the ILS, airport or aerodrome. So if you see an AD or an AP, we're going to stop and we're going to read that and make sure that we, aren't planning something that's not legal, right? It's closed, so you can't use it if it's closed.
It says 80 or what?
AD or AP. Typically, well, no. AD or AP just means that it's an airport wide or an aerodrome wide NODAM. So you would see something like, let's see if San Francisco has one. No.
Well, so with the approach plate that we picked to get our minimums, is that the runway we would have to look on in our D NODAMs?
Yeah, you could do it that way. You could technically, But remember, we're trying to get to a decision fast, so I don't want you guys to do that. What I want you guys to do is I want you to go here, look at your tap, find out you're legal to go there, and then I just want you to do a scan through your NoDos and go, runway's closed, outside my ETA, runway's closed, outside my ETA. I just want you to do a quick scan and see if an ILS is closed and we're kind of close on our minimums there, you know, it's like questionable. I don't even want you to look at the NOTAMs. I want you to do a quick scan through the NOTAMs if you're like at 6 miles, because there's no point, there's not going to be minimums, especially at a hub like San Francisco, that are going to be 6 miles. If you're at 6 miles, the airport's closed. Just call it closed, right? Because, yeah. Anyways, so just do a quick scan and just, if you're close on your minimums to where it's like 1 or 2 miles and you picked an approach plate, do a quick scan for that runway that you got your minimums on, and just see if there's anything that NOTAMs out that runway, okay? You can literally do your scan, like I do a quick look, runway, look at my time, runway, look at my time, navigation, 28 left. I looked at 19, right? So I'm not worried about that one. Obstruction, taxiway, obstruction, taxiway, obstruction, taxiway, apron, obstruction. That clears our NOTAMs out. We just did a scan of our NOTAMs, determined that our airport that we used for our minimums isn't NOTAMed out. We're good to go. So look for those key words. Apron, that's just the ramp area. That's where they park the jets or they'll fuel the jets or whatever. It's not on a taxiway. Taxiway is kind of your road through the airport. Obstructions don't matter. That's the pilots have to worry about obstructions. And the only time that an obstruction affects us would be in our FDC NOTAMs if it was like a crane at the end of the runway. If it's a crane at the end of the runway, it might affect our ceiling, right? It might affect our approach minimums. So that's, again, we'll get to that point, but you want to look at your local NOTAMs, do a quick scan. I'm legal to land there, and we know we're legal to go now, right? We don't have any MELs, our weather's legal, and we don't have a NOTAMed out runway that we can't use. Is everybody good to that point?
Yes.
So within 5-10 minutes, we determined that legal to go. So now that we've determined our legal to go, now we want to actually build our route, okay? And before we start building our route and doing simplified, does anybody need another break?
Do you need a break to eat carrot?
I'm okay. But if you guys need a break, I can.
Like a 30-minute dinner break or at some point, or what's the plan?
It depends on what you guys want to do. This first time, I'm pretty relaxed. We can even start ordering pizza in or whatever and just, just split up pizza, whatever you guys want to do. So if you guys need a break, you need a 30-minute break to run up to McDonald's, grab a burger and come back, whatever you want to do. You guys are welcome to bring snacks, bring lunches, whatever you want to do. Let me know. So for this first day, I'm game for whatever you guys want to do.
If we're about to start a whole other section, I haven't eaten.
Okay,
I'm grabbing some food if that's.
let's do that. You guys good with a quick break? 30 minutes, 15? How long do you need? 15, 30?
Yeah, 30's plenty.
Okay, 30. Let's call it 30.
Exactly.
Yay. Okay. Sorry, I forget when it's only you watching. No. So our ETA window is 03 to 05. Where does that all fall?
Is it the
Second line.
All of it falls in that same line that we got our ETA, or did our ETA, right? So do we need an alternate? Okay. Just a quick reminder, what is our ceilings? So we need 2,000 foot ceilings, right? Anything below 2,000 feet. So what is the ceiling? Right. How do we define a ceiling?
The lowest clears or-
Rose
Broken.
overcast. Rose clear, overcast, or
Vertical visibility. Yep. So as you can see here, we got few clouds at 3,000 feet. We're overcast at 25,000. So no alternate required, right? And now that we did that, oh, gosh. So before we do that, let's go build a route really quick. I forgot that we had not done that yet. So that being said, the way we build our routes, right? Let me get one of these markers. So if we have Seattle up here, okay, Seattle, and we have San Francisco down here. What method would you guys say would be the easiest to get from point A to point B? Would it be easier to start in Seattle and find our way to San Francisco, or try the reverse of that? What do you guys think? So we need a sit in the star, right? And then we need an en route section. So what, logically? We haven't talked about this yet, so I'm just trying to.
seems like starting point would make more sense. So you first find your city.
Yeah, so, okay, we can start with our sit, okay? Let's start with the sit, and then the next thing would be, let's find a star, okay? It's a lot easier. SIDs and stars put us out at transition points, right?
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter where we are, there's select transition points on our SIDs and our stars. So if we're using a SID and a star that has very select VORs, it's a lot easier to go find a SID and a star and then just connect those two dots. You know, once we have our SID and a star, just connect those two dots. Then we can, it's kind of logical, right? I've seen a lot of people just try to like one line it and then they're racing, going back, and they're trying to figure out. Doesn't work. Takes way too long. So let's go find ourselves a SID. So to find a SID, first of all, we're going to go to Seattle, Tacoma. Okay. Actually, let's jump to the JEP charts. Okay. Seattle, if we go into here. Oh my gosh. We can scroll down here. Now, remember the top right corner is telling us what chart it is, right? So we'll scroll down until we see, well, you can see it here. The charts are rotated, but star. So we go down until we see SID. Oops, star. Okay, so here we have a SID. And we want to kind of spit ourselves out in the general direction of the airport. Our SIDs and our stars, if you're looking at an airport, our SID and stars are basically going to spit us out into 4 quadrants. Okay, you're going to have a north, east, south, and west quadrant.
For SID and star?
For SIDs and stars, yeah. That's generally speaking, right? At major hubs, that's definitely going to be the case. In fact, you might have 2 per quadrant. So we want to find the SID or star that spits us out in the right direction and gets us as close as we can to our destination. So
this one wouldn't work because this is trying to go west.
let's see if I can rotate these things. So here you can see once again in the corner, this is your compass rose. It's telling you that's north. So that being said, that's spitting us out into the Pacific, right? This one's spitting us down to the south, right? Mountain 8 departure. Well, actually, it kind of, it's really hard to see. You see it come down and then transition out here to these VORs out here, right? So it's actually spitting us out to the east here.
What about Seattle 5?
Okay, Seattle 5. So, Seattle 5, as you can see here, spits us out to the south. Everything's southbound departure. We have all of these VORs, right? Okay.
There's an arrow pointing in straight north.
What was that?
There's an arrow on them pointing straight north though.
Yeah, so looking at this, so this, let me read this here really quick. So yeah, this would be like the north and south, but these, let's see. I have a feeling that we're going to find a better chart. Okay. So looking at our charts here, this is spitting us north and south. Okay. But then we also have the Suma 9 departure. So this one, if you look at this SID, we've got just multiple points, but we don't really have a direction as to which point this is going to. This is just kind of kicking us out all over the place. This type of departure procedure, trying to think of the correct name for it, but basically what we would do if we filed this departure, and we don't really want you to file these ones, is we would file direct from the airport to one of these transition points. Adam, are you there? Anyways, I'm trying to remember the name of this chart. It's not coming. Well, that's the name of it, but there's a specific name tied to this type of chart.
And I know it's a silly question, but do you want ones that have those little black dash?
Yeah, so you want
like
it.
Something like.
Yeah, you want something like this. So you have a transition point. As you can see here, it gives us a direction of travel, right? You have a transition point, and then here's our transitions. So this one spits us out to the south. Does that make sense? you can see the route that they want you to fly. If you're flying on the 1-6 runways, this is your flight path. If you're flying off the 3-4s, you make that turn and then go down out through those transition points. So looking at this chart, the SUMA 9 departure, I'm going to take a look at that on SkyVector. And there's a couple ways to plan this. If we go to Seattle and we go down to our departure procedures, as you can see here, the SUMA 1, so this is just a new chart. The charts that we have in our Jeppesen charts here are pretty old. SUMA 1 on SkyVector is the same transition. You can see it. Your transition points are Lakeview and Baker City, right? On here, Lakeview, Baker City. So it's the same stuff. They've probably just changed frequencies or maybe part of the procedure, but your transition points are the same. So now that we've kind of selected our departure, we can plan our departure. And
So it would be the SUMA 1?
so on SkyVector, we're going to put SUMA 1. So if you come down here and you look at the chart again, right here in this top corner, this is how we will write it out on our flight plan.
The SUMA 1 dot SUMA 1.
So if you do SUMA 1 and then hit enter,
Oh, okay.
just that first part.
Okay.
If you do SUMA 1 and then hit enter, it will put your waypoints in here and your transition. And you can see that here in your flight plan box, it says Lakeview VOR. That's where we want to go, right? And that kind of heads us out towards San Francisco. So look how close that puts us to San Francisco. It's like the halfway point, right? So now we can take a look at San Francisco and see if we can find a star for San Francisco. Now that we have Lakeview and we know that that's kind of the halfway point between the two cities, let's look for a star that has Lakeview as a transition point, if possible. So if we look at the Big Sur 3 arrival, we can see this takes us out to the south. Do you guys know where Big Sur is? It's down by Monterey. So that's south of San Francisco.
Yeah, I think I've been following everything. I've got, you hover over Seattle, I go down and see SUMA 1. You just click on it and it puts it in there, or do you gotta?
You got to type in SUMA 1. So if you look at the,
Oh, okay.
if you look at the
SUMA
chart here, the reason why I look at the chart is because I want to look at how it's typed in right here.
I misspelled
Okay.
it twice.
Because you have to put it in exactly like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't.
I'm not finding it on these, approach on the one that we're using for Jefferson.
You'll see SUMA 9.
I'm trying.
So SUMA 9 is going to be, are you in Seattle?
I'm in San
Here in
Francisco.
San Francisco. So San Francisco isn't, we pulled the SID off of Seattle. So it's going to be under your Seattle charts.
I was talking about the stars.
Oh, you're talking about the stars? Well, we're trying to find the stars. So Golden Gate arrival. So Big Sur. The difference between the Jeppesen charts that we have here and SkyVector, the SkyVector's charts have the current name. These you're still going to see a Big Sur arrival. It just might have a different number next to it. So I can prove that out real quick. So Big Sur 3, still Big Sur 3. Does everybody see? Jeppesen charts
So we just type in Big Sur 3,
are just,
BSR.
huh?
So we just type in BSR.
No. Big Sur 3, the problem with Big Sur 3 is it's spitting us out to the south. So we want a star that's pointing us north. And we would prefer it to spit us out as close to Lakeview as we can get it, right? So
You're talking about the
let's,
star though, it's not spitting us out, this is how we're coming in for land.
right, I'm sorry. Yeah. Bringing us in to San Francisco. So if you see this chart here, the Golden Gate 7 rival takes you out Golden Gate Bridge, right? Brings you in over Golden Gate Bridge. And that's north of San Francisco Airport. And we can see on this chart that these are all coming from the north. So we can take a quick look at SkyVector, and we can look at Fortuna, VOR, Roseburg, Red Bluff, and Mustang. So if you type in here, FOT, it shows us where the FOT VOR is in the crosshairs. Everybody see that? So if we zoomed in there, you could see.
So not like the Golden 7.
So now, well, we're going to look at all of those transition points. So we looked at Fortuna. Let's look for Roseburg really quick. RBG is the 3-letter identifier. So let's plug that in right here. Oops. RBG, our crosshairs are right here. So we're getting close. Let's see if we can find one right there. RBL is Red Bluff. So let's take and do that.
RBO.
Yep. So look at where Red Bluff puts us. If we get to Lakeview, we can take this jet route to Red Bluff, and that starts our approach into San Francisco. RBL. Yeah. So that being said, I feel pretty good about Red Bluff. Let's just for kicks and giggles, let's look at Mustang. FMG. FMG puts us clear out here. So I mean, it's still a viable approach, right? Because there's a direct jet route that goes directly to Mustang. It's just, this is a little shorter, right? And we can prove that out too. So we know that if we do Red Bluff, we're going to be, so let's zoom out just a hair. So this is Red Bluff. You can see our VOR here. It's a high VOR, and the VOR is right here. Mustang's down here off of this jet route, but this is jet route 3. So J3, if you type in J3 in your flight plan box right here, and then hit space, and then do RBL for Red Bluff. Oh, hold on. For some reason, it automatically put San Francisco in there. We'll take out San Francisco really quick. So J3 space RBL, and then hit enter. Let's zoom out. Okay. Looking pretty good, right? Fairly direct.
So the way that mine's going is, so it's going all the way to the airport, and then it's making a route going straight.
And going up from Oakland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So if you take out this SFO, because it automatically dropped in the SFO, if you erase SFO all the way to the LKV VOR, and then put in J3 RBL, and then hit enter, it will kick you down to San Francisco. And it'll look like that.
I took out the oak too.
Yep, take out Oak and San Francisco, and J3 RBL. So RBL is our transition point for the Golden Gate 7 arrival, right? So let's find out, make sure that our names line up here, right? So standard terminal arrival, look for Golden Gate 7. See the GOLDN7 is how we need to enter it into our flight plan. Does everybody see
So
that?
the only time we would put in PYE is if that's the transition you want to go off of specifically.
Where's PYE?
In front of where it says PYE.golden7 on the.
Yeah, so Point Reyes is the start of the approach.
Okay.
Our transition points are these outer VORs.
Yeah.
So these are our transition points. This is the start of our arrival. So PYE is the start of the arrival, but we want to identify our transition point. Okay. If we go transition point, so take out that PYE and then Golden 7, that does our approach into San Francisco.
And so with J3, did you just pick that jet route?
Yeah, so if you look at, just one second. Okay. So now our flight plan's in there.
So that's 2 miles.
Okay, so let me zoom in here really quick. So Lakeview was our transition point for our SID, right? And then we saw that, our transition point for our star was Red Bluff. So the line, the jet route that connects those two dots, if you look at the identifier, you can see that that's labeled J3. So that's why we put J3 in there, is it's the jet route we want to use to connect the two dots.
So say you have like for example, let's say you have five VORs and they just happen to be on J3. So you wouldn't have to type in all of VORs because J3 just connects to all of them, right?
To a point.
Okay.
Anytime there's a major change in direction. So say one VOR that you're doing has you off the 110 radial, and then the next VOR, if you follow J3, sends you way down south at like a heading of 160. You're going to want to list that VOR because that's where there's a major change of heading. Now, if it's just like a straight shot, yes and no. It's more preference at that point. The reason why I like to put in almost most of the VORs is for my flight planning purposes. When we're planning our legs in the IFR flight plan, this page right here, you're not going to want to go more than like my limit is like 250 miles. If you're going further than that, there's just too big of a change that you're going to get in your wind direction and speed that it's not going to be a very accurate flight plan. I like accuracy on my flight plan because, fuel burn's kind of important. And pilots are really good about complaining about it if you're not accurate on your fuel burns. So that being said, if there's a major heading change, I'll always list it or if I'm going farther, like this VOR to VOR is 163 miles, nautical miles. That's my comfort zone, is I like to be 150 to 200 when I'm planning. So
There was when I was feeling all the airlines, they all took relative less than 4,700. That's, to me, that's very low. That's a very low amount of fuel.
well, depends on the airplane. CRJ 200s, that's, I mean, where are we flying outside of St. George?
Just to every destination, like normal.
No, St. George, you're looking Phoenix, Denver, Salt Lake, and LA.
Mhm.
All about 50-minute flights, right? Our calculation that we use right here, this is our kind of our next step here. So we'd figure out, at this point, we've got our flight plan. We'll get to that in just one second. We got our flight plan. We've got a more accurate ETA now, right? Remember, don't go off of this number. Let's just calculate it ourselves, because this is taking into account altitude and winds. What altitude, I'm not 100% sure, but then it's counting for winds too. So there might be a strong headwind here. But if we kind of zoom in here, well, right here, actually you can see a total distance, 632 miles, nautical miles, to fly this flight plan. Does everybody see that? Okay, now that we know that we're flying 632 miles, we can do our little calculation, divided by 400 knots. That gives us a little more accurate of an ETA, which will allow us to make a better decision if we're close on different lines, whether or not we need an alternate, right? So we'd go back into our flight plan at this point. 1 hour or 1.6 hours. We were pretty close. It was like 1.62 when we calculated it before, right? Now it's 1.58. So that comes out just a little over an hour and a half.
It's 35 minutes.
So an hour and 35 minutes comes out to be what? 405. So it didn't change much, but it's a little more accurate now. So that being said, we go through, we'd look at our TAF again, just verify, hey, it's still all on that one line. We don't need an alternate. So now not only have we completed our legal to go, we've also determined we don't need an alternate. So we can continue our flight plan. Okay, so now we need to do our weight and balance. Now that we have a fairly accurate ETA, we need to figure out our weight and balance. So let's figure out our fuel really quick. If you notice on these packets, each one of these packets, the last page, you didn't do it? Well, you got the back of this. I write down a lot of notes. Use that for note taking. And I'll draw a box up in the corner. So I'll section off the box. I'll just write estimated. Okay. Now we're going to figure out our fuel. So what are the things that we need for weight and balance? We need a fuel load, we need our passengers and our cargo. Okay, so we'd start up here. If you do your estimated fuel, and then your estimated cargo, really our payload will stay the same. Your payload will always stay the same. Once you've figured out your payload, your fuel will be different, and that's pretty much it. So once we figure out our zero fuel weight, that stays the same. Only number that changes after that point is our fuel. So really, that's what we're worried about here. Okay, estimated fuel, and how do we figure out our estimated fuel? You guys remember?
It's 4,000 for the first and 3,000 every other hour.
So 4,000 for our first hour, and then our second and greater, right, would be 3,000. So now that we know that, our estimated time en route was 1 hour and 35 minutes. So for the first hour, we know 4,000 pounds, right? So now we've got to figure out what the 35 comes to. So we do our 45 or 40,000 or 4,000 pounds, and then to figure out our 35 minutes, we're going to take 3,000 pounds, and we're going to divide that by 60. Why? Minutes. We need our fuel per minute. That comes to 50 gallons per minute. Or 50 pounds per minute. Sorry, not gallons, pounds. 50 pounds per minute. So 50 times our 35 minutes comes to 1,800.
50 times 35. 1,750.
Oh, 1,750. Okay.
That's great.
I did 0.6.
I knew what I was.
I'm relying on you guys. You guys have seen my math skills. It's,
I did 0.6 times 3,000.
so 1,750 plus our 4,000
So take
equals 0.57, 5750. We've now got our estimated fuel burn. So we go here, 5750 is our estimated fuel burn. Okay. Now I get to do my OCD stuff here. Okay. So we're going to come down here to our weight and balance chart. And we're going to do, so just the stuff up at the top. So I want you guys to write down how you get your estimated fuel burn. On this weight and balance, this first form is just going to be for you guys to take notes, really. You can put in the data if you want, so you remember how to do all of this, but this is more note paper than it is, you know. Anyways, okay. So we just put in the date. This is flight number 1. Let's just call it flight number 1. We don't know our maximum takeoff weight. This is from Seattle. Oops. To San Francisco. We don't know our Minto fuel yet. We don't have any alternates. The weather time, just don't even worry about. And you don't really have to worry about the last box either, okay? The essential important information that you guys need to put in here is that. Everybody good? Good, good.
Garrett, you might already said, what's the K in front of Seattle?
So K is in the 48 contiguous states, every airport is going to be identified with a K and then the 3-letter identifier. So it's the ICAO code for that airport. So that's just a country identifier, really. Canada is a C, Mexico's an M, Alaska and Hawaii are a P. Because they're not part of the 48 contiguous. So, and outside of that, no idea.
That's kind of weird how some airports have like 3 letters and then a slash or like a.
So you're talking like,
Yeah, some airports have that. I don't know why.
ICAO, and then just the airport identifier. So, so if you're looking at ICAO charts, that's what that one means. But for weather and stuff like that, it's using the FCA VOR. That's why you see that. Because there's not an F or a GPI. Oh, wait. I might be wrong. I might be backwards on that. Anyways,
Yeah.
2 identifiers for the same airport. State College is another one. UNVSE. You've got, I don't know, a couple others, but same airport. Okay, so that being said, we can start filling out our weight and balance here. So adults, we had, how many adults here? 45? Okay. So we had 45 adults. We have 10 kids. And then we have 1 infant.
One observer.
One jump.
Or, I'm sorry, 1 jump seater.
Is it
My
still
bad.
winter?
No,
We'll take a look at our chart here.
All the way to April 30th, so yes.
One observer, yeah.
So it's always going to be 190 pounds per observer, always?
Yes.
Okay.
190. So really helps them out when I'm sitting in the jump seat.
45.
So, okay. So how do we figure out this weight?
So,
So let's just 45.
85.
Okay. So we come over here.
that's 80,
Oh,
87, 75. That's what I got.
45. It's almost not material. 87, 75, yeah, for 45.
Yeah.
put in our total.
And then
So that's 55.
Cheers.
We've got our observer down here.
10 times
87.
87, 800. Yeah.
Okay. So what do our adults weigh?
100.
87.75.
So 87.75. And we found that by coming over here to 45 adults. Okay. Oops.
What's our luggage, Kara?
We don't have any luggage. Which
Flying
is
pretty
super
clean.
fun.
That would be nice, right?
Or is it in here somewhere?
No, I just missed it. I'm sorry. I'll put on your luggage right now. So let's just say you've got, let's do a fairly realistic number here. Let's say 62 bags or 65 bags. Let's do that.
You gonna do front or back or?
65.
No, it'll typically come out like this. This is what you're going to see on your route briefings. It'll just say 65 bags, and it's up to you where they go. But what have we learned about loading an airplane? Loading a CRJ. I'll take that back. Back to the front always gives us our best numbers. So, not B gas. Bags. You guys have seen some really good fails watching me type. Okay, children. What do our kids weigh?
87.
If we come down here, they weigh 87 pounds per child.
Add a decimal or add a zero. Like 870.
Yeah, because we have 10 kids. So 870. Okay, so let's add them together.
Get 9645.
Okay, and then we put that number down here, correct? So, oops. So let's start out. Okay. Now, let's figure out our bow weight for the aircraft really quick. Where do we go for our bow weight?
Go to our aircraft basic operating weight.
Okay, our bow weights are here, and we have 730 Sierra Kilo. Did I write down an invalid plane? I'm gonna change that really quick.
I think.
Did I write down a wrong? No, it's right there.
It's 45298.
I just wasn't seeing it there. Okay. 45298. Come back up here. Okay. So we got our numbers up there. Let's what's our index on that?
71.8.
Okay. And now what do we do?
So you would
Passenger.
The pin. Okay. So let's go fill out our pin card really quick. Okay. So we have 45 adults.
Where'd you get the index?
For the bow or for the aircraft.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be right here. Yeah, on our aircraft basic operating weight and index
Does it say
data.
45298? Yes.
Yeah, 45,298. And the index is 71.8.
71.8.
Yes. No problem. So 45. We come over here, we've got 10 kids and no infants.
So if it's 55
55.
passengers,
So that's,
I wouldn't start 12 and work my way up because you would have a couple of empty rooms.
yeah, so kind of the general rule of thumb is let's distribute them evenly, right? Now, if we're going to have empty rows, we want those empty rows to be near the front. Or if we want to have less people for weight and balance purposes, we want the lower number of people in the front.
Well, I got 9 passengers per row.
So if you get 9 passengers per row, what does that come to?
To 65.
So that's 65, right?
'Cause
we have-
Or no, it's 55.
It is
It's
55.
54.
So
54. Okay, so let's put the extra back here. So let's do 10 in the back, right? Actually, hold on. So 9, we'll come down here, do, oops, no. 9, 9, 9, sound like a German. 9, and 10, okay. Oh my gosh, it's not working. Getting a twitch. There we go, that works. I can live with that. Okay, so that puts our total at 55 passengers. Okay, if we had an infant, would we count them as one of our passengers? No. Babies are weightless.
I mean, for a little while.
Yeah. Okay. Now we've got to figure out our index for these passenger rows. So we know that we have 9 across the board except for in row in section F, right?
All right.
So that being said, we're going to go to our 9 here. And pull our numbers. Okay, and then section F, we'll do 10, which is the 6.8. Okay. So somebody want to read them off to me?
Ellen was
Starting in A.
negative 14.4. B is negative 10.4. C is negative 6.4. D is negative 2.3. E is 2.1. And 6.8.
Okay. Now let's do our totals.
So,
Negative 33.5?
33.5
Negative 33.5 and 8.9.
and 8.9.
I thought it said.
Okay.
I added those.
Okay. We bring our 8.9 down here, right? So up here, just to keep things straight, we'll do a minus. And in the bottom, that gives us
24.6 minus 24.6.
oops. So our minus 24.6. So our passenger index is a minus 24.6. Now we just got to go throw it up on our chart here. and make sure you put it in the right box. So the left side is positive, right side is negative, 24.6. We'll just help keep things straight on this side. We'll throw in our minus signs. Okay. So now we've knocked out 3 of the 5 boxes. Got our passengers and our aircraft. Now let's do our cargo. So to figure out our cargo, we have 65 bags. Where do we look?
Average back weight.
And our average bag weight's right here, right?
1950.
So 65.
1950.
Yeah, so our 65 bags are right chair. Okay. And where do you guys want to put it?
I'll put 1,000 back.
How much in the back?
All of it.
I like all of it. Let's keep it simple.
So all of that. 1950.
Okay.
Wait, I thought that we had 1,000 on this.
Sorry, I missed that. Did you put it all back?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I put that on the wrong part there.
Oh, okay.
1950 right there.
Cause don't, I
I
can,
was
I
confused.
have like a white.
Sorry.
too.
My bad.
I know you only have.
I am ready for a break.
This is what you got?
Because I think this one will do it all.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now we come here. And what is our index for said baggage?
12.9.
12.9. Where did you find that?
Cargo aft.
Cargo aft. So cargo aft, we've got 1950 pounds.
Oh, nice.
Come down here to 1950 pounds, which is 12.9.
Yeah, it is. No, it's
Perfect.
Did you want all the cargo in the end?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Keep it simple, right? Just a general rule of thumb, and it's going to help you guys out big time in the long run. Just fill up the cargo aft first, every time.
Max it out every time.
Max it out.
Okay.
If it all fits in the aft cargo,
Better.
So we're
It's
gonna
great.
take no bags in the aft.
no, all in the aft.
Oh, sorry, forward. I mean.
Yeah, we will not put any of that weight in the forward cargo.
Gotta change it.
The reason why is because the CRJ, right? Once again, you got your CRJ, right? Pretty rough drawing. Where are our wings? Our wings are clear back in the aft part, right? Got your little winglet there. Okay. Your wings are aft of your center. So your lift is being produced in the aft. If you have more weight forward, the greater penalty you take, basically.
9.9 on the front seat.
Yeah. So if you want your weight to be centered aft and forward, right? So because so much of the airplane is forward of the wings, it takes more weight in the aft to level that out. Okay, this is how we get our zero fuel weight, and what is that total here? So our total positive index,
84.7.
Yep.
Wait. 84.7.
okay, 84.7. Our total negative index,
26.9.
okay. We bring that 26.9 down here. And that gives us our zero fuel weight and index.
You said you got 26.9?
Negative 26.9 for our for our negative.
Oh, that's okay. I'm subtracting the negatives for some reason. Okay, I got the
Double negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Alright.
Okay, so what's your total weight here? Somebody want to add it all up really fast? 57.8.
83.
083.
Yeah, 57083.
Okay, and that being said, oops. $57083. And your index is
57.8.
57.8. I'll tell you right now, look down here at this chart. Just quick. Fuel, look at your fuel index here. What's the variance? 2 is your
2, yeah.
max, right? You're gonna shift like 2.8 at the very most from that number, right? Where's 57 down here in your CG? Right smack dab in the middle.
So we're already in a good place.
You're in a good place. As long as you're, I mean, now just as a sanity check to make sure you loaded the plane correctly, you could even look at your max runway weight, your max takeoff weight, your landing weight, and your zero fuel weight, right? Our zero fuel weight, let's look at our max zero fuel weight. What is it again? Our max zero fuel weight, 62.3, right? Says it right there too. Just if you forget, are we under 62.3? Okay, we could put a lot of fuel on this plane. Everybody good? Okay.
Yeah.
That's why we load aft, is because that's gonna shift this further this way. The bigger the negative number we get, the more we're gonna shift this way.
According to my charts, if you were to put all the cargo in, or if you were to put 950 in the aft and 4,000, you would have been right near the area A.
Yeah. You've been so general rule of thumb, always load aft, then forward. On the CRJ.
Yeah, you know how I got confused? Yeah, so I got it now. So I confused aft for the forward part and the forward part for the aft part of the airplane.
Oh, okay.
That's why I got confused, but now I got it.
All right. So let's do our fuel now. We calculated our fuel, right? Yep. Throw that down there. Oops. Yeah. Okay. And what is the index on 5750?
Minus 2.6. 2.65.
Yeah, it's right in between.
So if it's right in between on our fuel index, we just kind of interpolate, right? FAA loves interpolate. So we just kind of, me personally, I penalize my flight more than so I would, yeah, so, yeah. So I'd look at, we got 5750. It's between our 5,500 and our 6,000 pounds here. So I would probably just put it at that 2.7 personally. It doesn't matter really at the end of the day. between a 0.1. It's not going to shift our. That's right. That is
Have the OCD.
that is correct. That's why I'm doing my 2.7.
2.7. Yeah.
Mine is 2.7.
I hope you don't think I'm back here giving you dirty looks. I'm like night lines or
No, you're good.
this.
No worries. No worries at all. Let's see. Yeah, I want you to interpolate. Pretty sure the FAA pays a guy just to make up freaking BS words that nobody understands. That you have to interpolate yourself.
Job security, man.
Classic government.
See, that's one thing about this job here. All the stuff we got to go through to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, some schmuck off the street can't just walk in and lower my pay. You know what I mean?
That's right. That is
That schmuck's got to
100%
pay
right.
for
Is
this
that why we have
class.
to go through all this?
What's that?
That's why we have to go through all this?
I don't know why we got
It shows dedication.
First month, did
I'm-
it? They had us do it.
Well, but that's the thing. I've had a lot of jobs where, you know, you don't get paid that much if you don't want to do it.
You're doing it right.
So that's the positive side of all this crap we have. I mean, this stuff we're learning. The way I see it.
It's crap.
Because-
And you'll never use it again. So
How bad do you want it?
That's fine. But it keeps-
no, you will use parts.
If it keeps the supply of dispatchers lower,
That's right.
the demand is higher, so the pay is higher. I'm for it.
I think
Yep.
the fact that really not a lot of people know that this job exists will also keep the
It's
numbers.
that's been extremely nice. But that's also why dispatch is hurting so bad and why we have 55 plus flights on our desk every day. So
Don't panic your mind just yet. Let's just work on one.
but that's why they're hiring 20 people every single hiring
But they're
group.
also bringing in planes like no others, so.
Not that fast. Not nearly as fast as you. I mean, we are gaining routes, but we need dispatchers, but a lot more than planes right
We have a
now.
bunch of old planes.
Yeah, those 200s are fun.
Thanks, ExpressJet. We love
Yeah, express jet.
them. You have to go through. and
They're hurting
check all
pretty
the
bad
work,
right
make
now.
sure that You're not getting this garbage.
That's right.
We are.
Yeah, I've had a couple 200s that I'm like, how is this thing still airborne? There is 7 MELs that are penalizing on this aircraft. What are we doing with this thing?
I had a pilot ILR the other day that was like, don't feel so comfortable flying this flight. So it's like, that
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I saw there was a flight that had it needed a GPU start and also a air start.
Yeah, that's just the IDG, the IDG deferral,
Yeah.
or APU deferral. Sorry, IDG, not an IDG, APU deferral.
I don't know why. So I know that when pilots go through their training, they're trained to walk around a certain area of the aircraft to do the walk-arounds. But every time I look at an airplane, or every time I look at a pilot who's walking around, he's always going right next to the APU, like literally right here next to it, doing his walk-around.
He's gonna melt his face off.
Like
That's why they send out the FO.
Maybe it's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they don't go around like they're supposed to. They go right next to the
Right.
fuselage, like we're walking. And then like I always
So-
wonder because the APU I always see like in the middle of the night you can see like a fire balls just
It's-
spit out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a danger area around the APU exhaust. But anyways, so takeoff weight. What do we get for our totals? Okay, 62,833. Let's take a quick look. What is our what's our total index? Okay, so we'll come down to our chart here, 55.1. Pretty much take this line straight up, right? To our weight, 6283, which is right about right chair. We'll just put a dot about right there. Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yeah,
We're smack dab in our CG.
I like that.
We got plenty of room to play. Okay. So now that we've got our weight and balance done, okay, and our fuel estimated, we're going to now, so we've got a takeoff weight right here, okay? This is our takeoff weight. Just do a quick check. We're not above this line, which is our max takeoff weight, right? And our max zero fuel weight, we already checked that, it's below it. So we're good, we're in our CG limits. So with our max takeoff weight, now we can figure out ISA at our origin. And then with that, we can figure out our cruise altitude. So how do we figure out?
On all the other planes, do these load manifests look the same for all of them? Like this is the
No.
Sierra Bay 700 at the top, but.
No. Let me show you the beautiful ERJ one.
There's a cool little website that shows you, it doesn't have all the accurate information that this Methodist has, but it shows
I
you.
like I know.
Yeah.
I know, and everybody looks like so much different than I imagined off of like, yeah. Oh my gosh.
We'll just go to SkyWest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that your screen?
Huh?
Did you bring?
Yeah.
You come in heavy, man.
I don't have a laptop. My kid jumped on it. Yeah.
That's like mine at home, big firewire screen.
Oh yeah.
So this is what I dock with.
Yeah.
I never use this, I just dock it.
That's right.
So now I'm like, this sucks.
He has in the charts, because I asked.
I purchased the force screens.
Oh, yeah.
Cheap.
I like the multiple screens.
Oh, for
This is
the.
gonna kill me.
Actually, TechView, right?
I'll get like the fuel sheets, like, they'll come past me, so you don't have anything.
Yeah, those screens are also better than my TV.
Yeah.
High res,
And then
good on the
match
eyes.
everything.
I've loved this thing.
And then fly into that, redo the whole thing.
Pretty nice.
He's gonna get it done. It is gonna be like, I'm so.
Trying to remember where it's at. Nope.
See the 41, see the good, so you got like 57.
Trying to remember where it's at.
Oh, look, we were pretty close to it.
Anyways,
So we were pretty close.
have you guys seen the ERJ weight and balance sheet? It's a joke. It's gonna be in here. I have a good feeling about this.
It's like way worse.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is way worse, except that they're more light.
Yeah. And the pilots don't actually have to fly them.
And I was in Houston.
Set.
So much maintenance. So
Yeah.
much more than they used to.
Stuff is being stored or everything's
You know, you said they have a lot of decent press.
It's 200.
Yeah. Not really bothering me, like, so So I'll get the fuel over it inside of it, and then I'll put the amount on there, and the pilot always gets mad at me, and the rest of the time, because when I come back 2 minutes later, it's down 600 pounds.
Yeah, it settles.
Yeah, like I'll let it settle, and so I'm there for a longer period of time, and then like it either goes up 500 pounds or down 500 pounds, it never does not stay accurate.
Right. That's that single point refueling on the CRJ 200. Or no, they don't have the single point refueling, do they? Yeah, they do.
Yeah. But if I have those moments where they're not for the single point sign up, so I have to gravity fuel it, and it's a lot more accurate gravity fuel.
Yeah. Just takes longer.
Yeah. It's just
Accuracy.
I was like trying to do that. Like,
Try it. You got 15 minutes to get that plane back out.
And I had this pilot one time yell at me, like, so.
Can't find this freaking chart.
So, I know this
We're almost there.
So, one time this CRJ won like 2,000 pounds, so I put the rest of the
It's okay.
and so there's like little light that was going when I filled metal, and then this whole just running out of the airplane. Yeah.
It's not for like 4 hours.
They can take
I mean, like my friend, like, you're supposed to like.
So that's on.
I'm not-
She's like,
I'm
is it
just
cash?
all
No,
of
we can't.
it.
That's good. So these off. 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm never on the job.
Anyway, I just told her.
So it's just.
According to the year, it says I have to put this much amount in the wood. And then
Trying to find the weight and balance.
So well, I probably just more than 47.
I can't remember where it's at. It might not be on here.
I didn't go back because I was sick. I started second Like my brain.
No, it's not that. I know that.
So I went with my mom, my son, like,
Work 18 hours a day, the whole
you know,
months, just sit on it.
I always do the same route every time
Like you take the practice course, you know, like to save some flags, like where to tell the trust.
I don't know. Maybe Google will have it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was like,
Even here, yeah, even here.
you've been there, so you can
all
easily
those
go
jobs,
out,
right, we're in the same.
work for 3 months, and I was asked for 3 months, not like easy work.
They can be amazing.
6 days a week, 40 hours.
No, there it is.
10 grand in your pocket, like even after you pay all your bills,
Or if you get one that likes,
you know, but everything's still.
or if you just get some stupid candidate on this one.
Oh,
You know it's one.
dang it.
Probably around that time.
Oh, he's only con.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, it's right, because the plus are right.
Several of them I had to work back.
Anyways, yeah, so this is kind of what the ERJ looks like, ERJ1, but it's got a lot more information. This is pretty basic. So basically what you do is you start out at your takeoff weight, and then you like follow these tick marks to the side and then back over here, depending on where the passengers are. You just keep zigzagging down the chart until you finally spit out your end result. It's absolute horse crap. And if a pilot ever has to do a manual weight and balance, he always will call and he'll always be like, how the hell do I do this? And you'd say, I don't know. And then they just kind of like, okay, I think we're good. That's pretty much it. It's the most confusing chart. But yeah, it's like this squiggly line that you make. Down this chart.
The squiggly was on the ADX.
Yeah,
I had two.
It's-
Two squealies, two squealies.
The hair just stood up on my arm when you showed that.
yeah, it's garbage, man.
What was the answer to the two quickly question?
Yeah. And by the way, there was 6 on there that were not in the database.
Yeah, so
Flat
this
out not in there.
this is what it looks like when you're out of tolerance.
So,
Get your money back?
so I had to do the math all the way, baby.
Oh my god.
You can't memorize what a
If
question
you memorize,
to,
you're
like,
gonna get
try
schooled big time on this test.
You try and memorize it, it's
Yeah.
It's not cool.
I've already begun.
like, to memorize it to get your money back, you can't even
Yeah.
think to memorize a question to get your money back.
I'll just slightly change it, like, this was the question.
Yeah, there were a number of them in
Not
your eyes that I didn't even recognize at all.
Oh, me
Oh,
neither.
really?
So I had to do the chart thing.
And there's one question that wasn't on the test, or the test.
So my whole thing was, and this is really bad, and you guys shouldn't listen to me when I say this, if you haven't taken the ADX. But when it came to flight planning, I did not study flight planning at all. You want to know why? Because there was one question, and I knew there was only going to be like one, at most 2 flight planning questions.
Is that,
So why would I waste my time studying?
How'd you know
I'm
it's
not
like-
studying.
That's me. Huh?
How'd you know it's like?
What?
Really good. I did the math on it, right? So you've got your FARs. They're going to weight that pretty heavily, right?
Yeah, I know.
They're going to weight
Aerodynamics.
your aerodynamics. They're going to weight,
The generals, I got a lot of generals.
yeah, your general questions and systems. When you have to sit there and figure out, the flight planning questions, if you were to sit there and figure out the flight planning questions, it would take you literally 40 plus minutes to figure out the answer to one problem, right?
Yeah, just guess.
So they don't allow you enough time to do 2 or 3 or 4 of those questions.
Ah,
They're going to spend a lot more time on the general knowledge stuff.
that's how you can.
So weight and balance, when it came to the actual full flight planning stuff, I was just like,
Yeah,
and I
most of
probably
the-
missed that.
Most of the test was like, she was saying, so you blast through it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so then I had marked a few and then went back and I had no idea. And the answers
Yeah.
were so close and they weren't in the study guide.
Yeah.
So then I started doing the math. Okay, flip to the front, the
Yeah.
legend. Okay, here's how you do it. So
Yeah.
I started doing the math and I don't know.
It burns you
You're
out quick.
ambitious, I just
Yeah.
guessed.
Yeah.
It's like,
So
I do not want to be back here a week, man. This sucker at the end of the day.
So we've got like 7 minutes left of class, so I'm just gonna.
And then, so what page will we just?
We're gonna
go back
start
and forth,
once-
right?
Once we get back, we're gonna start at our ISA, and it's gonna go.
57 is the number you want to put.
I expected this first one to take about 2 days for us to figure out. Okay. Okay. So ADX, super important that if you haven't taken it, you take it in the next 2 weeks. If you have applied for SkyWest, you have to take it in the next 2 weeks, or else you will not get your dispatch license prior to the hiring, prior to the interview, which means that you won't get the interview. So, that being said, this is the way that I studied for the ADX. We went through, I told you how they weight the questions, right? They're going to want to know the general knowledge stuff way more than they're going to want to know if you can execute an entire flight plan. That's what the practical is for. So when you study for the ADX, make sure that you are going through. Let me pull up my dauntless here. I'm trying to remember. You got to remember too, like I took the ADX. Oh, it's not in here.
So you said the percentages, like, here it shows FAR is just 287, IFR navigation is 323, so you just focused on those.
I focused on the areas where I understood they were going to be asking a lot more questions. Weather, I need to look at,
Did they ask a lot of weather questions?
Yeah, tons of, I got tons of weather questions.
It was probably, it seemed like it was 70% farmers.
70% was.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then weather,
in
you
general.
gotta know your minimums or you're screwed.
Oh, yeah, if you can't read those approach plates.
Yeah, you gotta know your minimums.
Okay, I was so
Some-
happy
some
that I
of
knew.
them that-
And then there was a lot of performance charts,
Okay.
and that was it. But if you don't know your FARs, you're screwed.
Some of them that throw me
Five
off.
questions, right out of the gate. Bang, bang, bang,
Okay.
where's it at?
I mean, cause I kept practicing.
So to his point, yeah, the FAR is the biggest section. FAR and weather seem like.
So
So like the thing that throws me off all those questions is like, so you, it gives you a chart and you can throw your minimum, but you're like, okay, yeah, that's the answer, but then you click on that answer, it's the wrong answer because you have to add an additional 100 feet, or you have to add an additional whatever feet, like they give you.
It threw me off having a book, because we had one
Click
book
on the
before.
calculation.
That was really weird.
I liked it. I liked that I could like have my fingers in front of me and they weren't taking up half the screen I was trying to read.
Yeah,
That's what's fun on the
before I even started,
I should do weather.
Figures and
explanations,
explanations,
yeah.
so many things of.
yeah, I mean, before I even started, I already found where everything was. Kind of to acclimate myself, that saved a lot of time, so find all those charts up front, mark a few spots.
Okay,
Probably the very last thing.
There was a lot of information in that book.
I might actually
Got me
take
through some
the
questions.
bigger cut off work.
Oh, the stuff in the front?
Try and cram and go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing. I just read through that.
That's
That's
what
what
you-
I had
Alright.
tons of
I know, but I'm assuming they're not there.
Yes.
so what I want you guys to do, you need to do every single section. You need to do it. At least look at it. And what I do when I studied, or what I did when I studied, and I told Matt this just the other day.
What program is this?
So this is Dauntless. So Dauntless is very similar to Shepherd Air. I used them both. Shepherd Air has really good things. I liked Dauntless's program application better.
Nicer than mine, sorry, from 1980.
Yeah, that's Shepherd Air for sure. So go through and show only the correct answers. And I went through this like 100 times easily. You know, just go through and memorize the correct answer only. Your subconscious is a lot better than your conscious, right? Than your
I circled the answer before reading the question on all of them, the six.
Yes, yeah.
So and then I went back to kind of verify that I got it right, but I didn't even want to get confused with a paragraph question. So yeah, it's
Just do the answers and look at it.
Yeah, exactly. So go through and just look at this seriously. Look at it until you're swiping through, and that's the other reason why I like Dauntless is because they have a phone app too,
Oh, I wish I'd known that.
So is
which
that
was
like so is
awesome.
that like another 88 you have to sign up for or something?
Another program. Yeah,
To buy it.
it's like $65.
What?
Yeah. So, and that's the reason why I bought it was the phone app. I have a lot more time to study on my phone than I did.
Dude, I wish somebody would.
So with this, go through and look at only the correct answer. Your Shepherd Air does it better as far as that goes because it literally shows only the correct answer. Don't confuse yourself with the other stuff on there. Look at only the correct answer and do that until you are clicking through questions like, and you just know what it is. There's 80 questions on your on your ADX. 80 questions, which means to get 70%, you have you can't miss more than how many?
You need to get 56.
24?
Yeah, you need to get
56 right.
56 right.
Yo, got me that one.
If you go through and you answer all but 24, and you are 100% in your head, I got that right. Good job. Go back through. You know, I gave myself a cushion. I said, my first pass through, I need to get all but 15. I need to be able to answer those with 100% confidence. When I had 20 at the end of that, I was like, I really got to focus on 5 of them. Once I got to that 5, the rest, honestly, I just clicked through and answered. Because I was at like 2.5 hours and I was done. So.
Use the stuff in the front of that book too, like all the
Looks really good.
abbreviations
Yeah.
and.
On the ones you get left and you have some time, that looks awesome.
So, that being said, first go through, and Shepherd Air talks about this, first go through and look at only the correct answer. If you go through and do that to the point and do it one section at a time. So, I can't remember how to get back now. Okay, so if you go through, what I did was I did it like 3 or 4 times, I don't know, till I got comfortable just clicking through and I knew the answer subconsciously. And then I'd go through and I would test on it. So I'd go into here and I would do the study 1 where I actually have to select an answer. But at that time, if you're going with your instinct, you're going to get almost all of them right off the bat. That being said, I would do that until I got 100%, and then I'd move to the next subject. I'd go through, look at only the correct answer, I'd test on it and get 100%. Then I'd go to the next section. After I did 3 sections, I'd go back and I'd do comprehensive all of those and make sure that I'm still on course with all of those 3 sections. After I've done that, I'll move to the next bank. Oops. I'd just move to the next bank. So I'd do these 3 sections, make sure I got 100%, do those 3 sections on down. If you break it up into 3s and then go back, like I did those first 3, went back, tested, did the next 3, went back and tested all of them, did the next 3, went back and tested all of them, did the next 3, went back and tested all of them. And if you do that, you just kind of, you see those same questions over and over again.
Yeah, there's only what, 7?
But if you break it down, I mean, it's really not too bad if you do each category. You pick it
That
up.
was broke down a lot more than Shepherd's.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. One of the categories has like 350 questions.
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to get through it. I'm like, I'll do 50 at a time.
So Dauntless is a good application if you want to spend the extra money. I'm not going to say you have to.
I would have done it, I mean, it's only have tomorrow, so
Is it 7?
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I would just stick to what you've been doing.
yeah, I literally would do the correct answer and then write it down on a flashcard.
Yeah.
So I have like, almost 1,000 flashcards that I wrote.
I started out doing that and I got about to aerodynamics and I was just like, I am done writing every single question. My brother wrote every single question, all 1,719 questions. He did it. So
Yeah, I'm not doing this, but I feel like I'd have to write it down.
Yeah.
Because I tried doing it without writing it down, and like.
You do it with a physical, you tie a physical part aspect to it, it sticks a little better. Anyways, those are my tips on studying for the ADX. Take them for what they're worth. But the important thing to remember is if you can test and be 100%, I know that I got, 65 of these right, you're probably going to pass. Because that cushion's going to allow you're probably, most likely.
That's what I did.
See, I felt 100% confidence with 20 of them, and then I went back and I tried to figure out the rest. But anyways, I ended up with a 76%. Does that matter? Heck no. The only people that ever see those numbers are going to be me and Adam and Greg Brooks. That's it. Nobody else will ever see them again.
So he
And
knows our
nobody
weaknesses.
cares. Because everybody that's a dispatcher knows how big of a pain in the ass the ADX is and how irrelevant the ADX is. So just pass it. You get a 70%.
By the way, pilots are the same way. I was talking to a pilot day after I took it. He said, "Oh, that's like the ATP. Dude, just memorize it, get it over with." Even pilots don't use that crap.
Yeah.
He said, "We just memorize it, pass it."
So
You got to remember.
Shh, the FAA's on.
Right. I'm always listening.
Just pass it. Just pass it.
But I got a 70. And if you get more than 70, you tried too hard.
Yeah. 100%. That's literally, that's all I want you to do. You bring in a passing score, you've done great. High five all around. Anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
We'll see. Tired.